watching KWWL. This is an election night special edition of KWWL News at 10.
And good evening, everyone. I'm Ron Steele.
And I'm Abby Turpin. We are learning the answers to months-long questions tonight as midterm election results continue to come in.
You're going to find them at the bottom of your screen right here throughout the evening. Early results are beginning to come in. We're also going to bring you Team 7 coverage of some of the biggest races all across our state tonight, as you see on your screen. We'll have live reports coming to you from Des Moines all the way to Dubuque.
And KWWL political analyst Dr. Chris Larimer is also here on hand to give us perspective on tonight's results, not just here in Iowa, but he will also be sharing some key information on races across the country.
Well, let's begin tonight with a race of major importance, not only here in eastern Iowa, but on the national landscape politically for 1st District Congress here across eastern Iowa.
Abby Finkenauer and Rod Blum are both from the Dubuque area. Both have worked over the last several months to represent the 1st Congressional District, which does span 20 eastern Iowa counties. And right now, here is a look at the vote tally in that race. Now, you can see right there, 14% of the results are in. Abby Finkenauer, 57%, taking a strong lead there at the very beginning with over 67,000 votes.
We have KWWL reporters live from the watch parties of both of the Finkenauer and Blum campaigns. Let's begin tonight with KWWL reporter Taylor Vessel.
He is in Peosta, where Rod Blum is hosting a results party. Taylor, go ahead and paint a picture as to the mood right now at the Blum gathering.
Well, Abby, it's a very interesting mood right now. Everyone is very excited and very attentive, eyes glued to the screen as the results are coming in nationwide. There's a very large crowd here supporting Republicans. Now, Congressman Rod Blum has still not arrived. We're still waiting to see if he was here. We have no word yet exactly when he'll be here, but I did catch up with him earlier this evening about the race before the polls closed and asked him how he felt about this race. Now, he said it felt very similar to his last two, where he managed to come from behind to win the election.
The third time now that I've been on, up for this position, and all the other times too, we came from behind, tied it up, and then went into the lead nearly in the last 2 weeks. So it feels the same way again this time.
Now, that was Congressman Blum just there. We're waiting for those results to come in. It seems like Finkenauer is leading just a little bit, but as you heard, Congressman Rod Blum is confident that this race could be like the ones before, where he comes back from behind. Now, I also asked him earlier that if he did concede his seat, what he would do, and he said he would simply go back to business, but he was proud of the work he's done. Live in Peosta, Taylor Vessel, News 7.
All right, Taylor, thank you very much. We'll talk more in just a bit. Now, Blum's challenger in the race is, of course, Abby Finkenauer.
Now, the two have been in the spotlight here nationally and in eastern Iowa. High-profile race nationally, which has featured plenty of fiery debates, including the one that we carried here on KWWL Live from the University of Northern Iowa recently in Cedar Falls.
KWWL reporter Jalen Socek has spent the day covering the Finkenauer campaign.
He joins us live right now from the Seven Hills Brewing Company in Dubuque, where the Finkenauer folks are watching the results come in tonight. Jalen, I don't know if you can hear me because I know it's loud in the background. They have to be very happy with these early results, big leads.
Absolutely, Ron. There is a lot of energy right now. The crowds have just been cheering every time those results start to come in as Abby currently leads. There's still no current sign of Finkenauer. We're told that she has been watching the results come in with her family, but we do expect to see her soon, and eventually we expect to hear her up on that podium at some point. But we'll give you a look at the crowd. This group, they have just been cheering basically nonstop every time again once those precincts start to report. But depending on the results here, Finkenauer has an opportunity to make history tonight. If she is elected, she has the chance to be one of the youngest women elected to the United States House of Representatives at only 29 years old. And you hear even a little bit, Abby chant just broke out. But not only that, she would be the first woman in the state of Iowa to be elected to the U.S. House. If she does get elected tonight, we know her top priority, reversing the decision on collective bargaining. Little cheer here for a second. Reversing that decision on collective bargaining has been her top priority. It's their motivation for running in this race. So again, if she makes makes history tonight? We're not quite sure yet, but a lot of people here are sure hoping so. Only time will tell as those votes start to continue to come in. But again, we should hopefully be hearing from her pretty soon. But for now, we are live in Dubuque. Jalen Socek, News 7, KWWL. All
right, Jalen, thank you very much. And let's go ahead and take another look at the vote tally right now. It has changed since we last talked about it. Now 15% reporting. Abby Finkenauer, 56% of the vote. Rod Blum, 42% of the vote. Of course, we'll be following this one very closely.
In fact, if Abby Finkenauer would win tonight, she would be the second youngest woman ever elected to Congress. She would have been the youngest, but earlier tonight, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez from New York City, she just turned 29 October of this year. She is actually the youngest woman ever elected to U.S. Congress out of the Bronx and Queens in New York City. And we're also going to find out soon who will lead our state as the governor's race begins to shape up a little bit. The votes are being counted right now. Early on, current Governor Kim Reynolds hoping to become elected to this job in what would be, of course, a moment in Iowa history, as she would be the first woman to ever be elected governor of Iowa. She took over for former Governor Terry Branstad after his appointment by President Trump to ambassador to China back in July of 2017. Democratic challenger Fred Hubbell spent millions of dollars campaigning against Governor Reynolds. He crisscrossed the state, rallying his supporters for ahead of tonight's big vote. So here are the numbers in the early going as we speak right now. This is with 19% of the precincts reporting, and it's a Fred Hubbell lead of 8 percentage points over Governor Kim Reynolds at this stage as the tallies continue.
And KWWL has been on top of this race throughout the entire campaign season. Right now we have 2 reporters in Des Moines as the results are coming in.
Well, first of all, let's go live right now to KWWL reporter Ashley Neighbor. She is with Governor Reynolds' campaign.
Well, you can feel the anxiety in the room as all eyes at the Republican Watch Party are on the TVs. Everyone is eagerly awaiting the results to find out who will be Iowa's next governor. If Governor Kim Reynolds wins the race, she would be the first woman elected as Iowa's governor. And so far, Reynolds hasn't made an appearance at the event. We did talk to Lieutenant Governor Adam Gregg earlier today, who said that they were feeling optimistic. Earlier today, they were encouraging all Reynolds supporters to get out to the polls and vote. Gregg saying in a race this close, every vote matters, and we're certainly feeling that as the results roll in. For now, I'm live in Des Moines. Ashley Neighbor, News 7, KWWL.
Ashley, thank you very much. Iowa's race for governor, one of 36 across the country today, and I think we mentioned this earlier, Abby. There are 16 women on the ballots among those 36 races for governor across the country, including, of course, our state of Iowa.
And let's continue our coverage now on the gubernatorial race. KWW reporter Lauren Moss, she is also in Des Moines. She is following the Hubbell campaign today. Lauren, tell us, set the mood for us right there in that room. What's going on right now?
Abby, all eyes are peeled to the 2 TV screens behind me. You can hear them, can't you? This room is filled with hundreds of supporters who are all hoping to hear that Fred Hubbell will be Iowa's next governor. Now, we haven't seen him here just yet, but I spoke with him earlier. He told me he's optimistic and excited about tonight. And again, that's the atmosphere in this entire room. You heard them clapping. They clap every time a Democrat wins either another state or there's an update on this race. And as we've reported all along, this race has been a very close one. In fact, this past weekend, the Des Moines Register gave an updated poll. It showed just a 2-point lead that Hubbell had over Governor Reynolds. And so it's been very close all along. If he were to be elected, he would be Iowa's first Democratic governor since 2011. So will that happen? We will just have to wait and see. Again, this room is rocking right now, so I'll be here all night long giving you guys updates. Live in Des Moines, Lauren Moss, News 7, KWWL.
You used the word rockin'. Okay, that's good. That's a good word on election night. Yeah. It is rockin' here on the set, too, as well. Let's take a look at the numbers right now in the race for Iowa governor. No change here. 19% of the precincts across our state. Remember, this is a statewide result, so we're waiting for another 81% to come in. Fred Hubbell, the Democrat, with a lead over current governor Republican Kim Reynolds, 53 to 45%. Now, on top of the other race for 1st District Congress that we've been talking about, we have other races that are out there. The other 3 congressional districts in Iowa are also all up for grabs here tonight.
Now, here is a map of how our state is divided up when it comes to the National House on Capitol Hill. The 4th and 2nd districts also have a handful of counties in our viewing area. So right now, let's look at the 4th district. This is Republican incumbent Steve King and Democrat J.D. Scholten against each other. Now, currently 15% of the results are in. J.D. Scholten leading right now with 50% of the vote. A very close one right now, though, but again, only 15% of the vote is in at this point.
Yeah, most polls predicted that to be a little bit closer this time for Congressman Steve King. 2nd district, the incumbent Democrat, of course, is Dave Loebsack. Big lead here tonight over his Republican challenger, Dr. Christopher Peters, in that race for 2nd District Congress. And Dave Loebsack, of course, the professor emeritus of political science over at Cornell College in Mount Vernon.
Then the 3rd district, this is a race between Republican incumbent David Young and Democrat Cindy Axne. Right now, 47% is reporting here, so probably this is the race that we have the strongest results that we can report right now. But Cindy Axne, 54% of the vote over David Young with 43%. Cindy Axne carrying close to 120,000 votes. Again, that's 47% reporting.
And of course here locally, a lot of you are very interested in what is happening for the race for Black Hawk County Supervisor, also a big race in Lynn County we'll talk about here momentarily. But if current Waterloo Police Chief is involved in this race, that's Dan Trelka running for County Supervisor as a Republican right now. Now, remember, the board is 5 members. All are Democrats. Frank Maxima is not seeking re-election, but Craig White is going for another term, his 5th, and he is tied right now with Dan Trelka, both at 36%. Yeshia Baby, the Assistant Black Hawk County Attorney, 28%. 94% of the votes are in this very key Black Hawk County race for County Supervisor.
We do need to take a quick break as we continue our Decision 2018 coverage. Let's go ahead and take a live look right now. This is of the Kim Reynolds campaign. They're, of course, anxiously awaiting the results there, and we'll have much more coming up right after this. Stay with us. We now want to take a closer look at our Iowa voters. We have actually partnered with the Associated Press, who has been surveying more than 100,000 members of the American electorate across the country, nearly 800 right here in Iowa. The survey conducted at the University of Chicago. And right now, KWWL's Amanda Gilbert joins us live here in the studio with much more.
That's right. Yeah, this really looked at our voters today here in Iowa, kind of breaks them down. So I kind of looked at different questions that were asked in the survey to see kind of what our voters and viewers are thinking. So first, let's go to this first graphic here. We're first breaking down Iowa voters by gender. So far, it says it looks like 51% of voters were women today, and around 49% were men. The margin of error for this is around 5%. Another question we looked at with this exit poll is, generally speaking, would you say the country is headed in the right direction or in the wrong direction? And around 46% of Iowa voters say right direction. Around 54% say wrong. The margin of error for this is around 5%. Looking at one more graphic here, breaking things down a little bit more, we looked at what kind of area voters live in. Around 22% of voters say they live in rural areas. 32% say small town, 29% say suburban, and keeping things going, it looks like around 17% say urban. The margin of error for this is also 5%. Real quick, what I mean by margin of error is that's based off of the number of voters that were interviewed. So really interesting poll. I hope to look at this more tomorrow, too.
All right, Amanda, thank you very much. And, of course, we'll have the information on our website as well. Right now, of course, we want to just remind you that all of our election coverage, all of the results can be found right there on our website. That is KWWL.com. You just click on that red bar at the very top, and all of the updated information is available. I'm actually sitting here looking at my phone right now through the KWWL website. 28% of precincts reporting right now. Fred Hubble with a lead, 52%, 46% for Governor Kim Reynolds. And we also want to report 19% of precincts reporting in the House District 1 race. Abby Finkenauer right now with 55% of the vote, a little over 72,000 votes. And Congressman Rod Blum with 43% of the vote there. 19% of precincts reporting once again.
And Black Hawk County Auditor Grant Veeder has sent out on Twitter tonight 7 of 7 precincts have come in the race for Iowa House District 60. That's Dave Williams against Walt Rogers. Right now, Williams 79-28, Rogers 76-99. That would again be a Democratic victory here tonight in Black Hawk County if the challenger, Dave Williams, emerges as victorious, and with 7 of 7 precincts, and I believe that does include also the absentee ballots according to of the Blackhawk County Auditor Grant Veter. So Dave Williams, 56%, Walt Rogers, 44%. And as I have it here, he has a 7 of 7 precincts. We were reporting that as 0% reporting, but I don't think that is correct. I believe 7 of 7 precincts are reporting from Blackhawk County. It looks like Dave Williams has won tonight here in House District 60.
And right now we want to turn to our political analyst, Dr. Chris Larimer. Of course, he's been with us here all evening in the studios, and we have many questions that we want to ask of him tonight. Of course, not just here in the Iowa races, but national races as well that we've been taking a very big look at.
Now, Chris, one of our things we talked about the blue wave not occurring, at least on the national front, because obviously Democrats are going to take the House, but they will not control the Senate, so you're going to have a 2-year stalemate there. But here in Iowa, Democrats are doing very well tonight. It looks like victory is coming for Hubble and Abby Finkenauer.
Well, yeah, and I think we have to be careful on some of those yet. It does seem to be that it's still too early to call on some of those races because we still have 60 to 70% of the vote still out there. So, we have to be careful on those. But I think your first point about divided government at the national level is key to that is going to be one of the biggest storylines of the night, that we now are in an era of divided government. That means something very different for the Trump administration. That means something different for the operations in Congress. And so that's one of the bigger storylines. And the other part of it is that, coming in tonight, there were a lot of forecasts out there, a lot of political science modeling done on what to expect for tonight. And so far, those models have held up. Going into tonight, the so-called generic ballot test had Democrats up by about an average of 7 to 8 percentage points, which predicted about a 24 to 30 seat gain for Democrats. So far, it looks like we're on pace for that. A lot of the forecasting models also predicted that the Republicans would retain control of the Senate, maybe pick up a seat or two, and so far it looks like we're on pace for that as well. And so I think so far a lot of the political science modeling has done pretty well tonight.
Now, Chris, we've been talking with you for the past many months, not just tonight. This isn't the first time you've come into our studio. And my big question for you is, what really mattered in this race? Because, you can analyze for months, is it going to be health care? Is it going to be the state budget in all these different races? Let's specifically focus on the Finkenauer race and the Blum race. What specifically mattered, do you think, to the voter today?
Well, I think, we're waiting on some of those results. We have some of the results from some of the exit poll data from the Associated Press that asked about, what were the key issue, or what do you say is the most important issue facing the country? And we have some of those preliminary results. It looks like so far that the economy, healthcare, immigration were some of those key issues statewide for voters. But within the 1st Congressional District, I think, that's one of those where it's going to take a little bit of time to dig up some of that exit poll data. This is a very unique district. It's certainly very imbalanced in terms of where the voters are located, rural versus urban. And you have a few of those key counties in Lynn, Dubuque, and Blackhawk that we've talked about that carry a lot of weight. But as far as really getting at some of those key issues, I think, that's going to take a little bit of time for, at least within the 1st Congressional District.
Absolutely.
Chris, hey, thank you very much. We're going to make a call here, I believe. Abby Finkenauer at age 29, according to reports, I guess we can say according to reports, 29-year-old Abby Finkenauer has won the race for 1st District Congress right here in Iowa.
And of course, we want to go ahead and take you right now to the gathering for her party right now. And Jalen Sochek is covering that for us in Dubuque. Hopefully we can get her live right now. She's standing by. I'm sure it's very loud where you're at right now. Jalen, can you hear me?
Yes, Abby, I can hear you.
All right, good. And tell us what's going on in that room right now.
Yeah, this crowd has been celebrating for quite a little bit. They are confident that Abby Finkenauer was going to win, and she has. Tonight, Abby Finkenauer has made history, not only being one of the youngest women elected to the U.S. House of Representatives, but the first woman for the state of Iowa. So we're going to zoom in. Many people are already kind of done celebrating. They had this called, and they've been cheering. We heard a large Abby chant. I've seen women, especially, they've been wiping the tears out of their eyes. This has been a very emotional night for them. But again, they have just been cheering. They're still cheering as the other results pile in, but so far, still no sign of Finkenauer. We heard she was not going to be here until this was a lock, so she should be walking in any moment now. We will hear her come up to that podium. But again, this crowd still can't take their eyes off of the TV as the results coming in, but they have been very happy. But yeah, right now we are just waiting for Finkenauer to get in here and address the crowd. We should be hearing from her pretty soon, as it has turned out to be quite an historic night here in Dubuque. For now, live in Dubuque, Jalen Sochek, News 7, KWWL.
Yeah, for example, thanks, Jalen, for the report. For example, with all the precincts reporting in Blackhawk County, Abby Finkenauer carried Blackhawk County by more than 7,500 votes over the two-term incumbent Republican Rod Blum. So again, 29-year-old Abby Finkenauer, a state representative from Dubuque County, has won 1st District Congress here in the state of Iowa, upsetting a two-term Republican Congressman Rod Blum.
So obviously, with this race called, the results are coming in fast tonight. We do need to take a very quick break, but be sure to keep it right here on KWWL for your Decision 2018 coverage.
You're watching KWWL. This is an election night special edition of KWWL News at 10.
All right, and just in that short commercial break, results are rolling in, and they are rolling in fast. Right now, we want to take a look at the old seat that was held by Robert Dvorsky. This is Democrat Zach Walz and Libertarian Carl Cranbeck. They are facing off right now. Here are the results, and they are strong in favor of Zach Walz. As you can see, 79%, and that is 97% of the precincts reporting, of everyone reporting. So I think it's safe to say that Zach Walz will serve in District 37 in the Iowa Senate.
Yeah, he was expected to win. That's a really, really heavily Democratic county down there, and so Zach Walz not a surprise there in winning that pretty easily again here tonight. We know a lot of you are interested, of course, in the races for Blackhawk County Supervisor and also for Lynn County. Let's start with Blackhawk County here, and we're electing 2 here tonight with 100% of the results in. Dan Trelk is the top vote getter. Craig White is also re-elected to a 5th term. So for the first time in quite some time, the Blackhawk County Board of Supervisors is going to have a Republican on the board in the name, of course, of Waterloo Police Chief Dan Trelka, who can serve as Waterloo Police Chief and as a Blackhawk County Supervisor. The Attorney General's office has already issued that ruling quite a while ago, saying that, yes, he can be both, and that is the way it's going to be, as Dan Trelka is, by 17 votes, the top vote getter here tonight in Blackhawk County. Because remember, the board is 5 members. They're all Democrats right now. The candidate-elect here tonight is Dan Trelka. So there's going to be 1 Republican and 4 Democrats on the Blackhawk County Board of Supervisors. And Craig White, though, is reelected, though, again, with a 5th term. So that's the situation for Blackhawk County.
And 3 seats are open on the new-look Lynn County Board of Supervisors. They used to have 5 positions. District 1 has James Hauser and Stacy Walker facing off, both trying to remain on the board. You can see Stacy Walker right there, 65%, and that is 91% reporting.
District 2, it's Ben Rogers, win over Joel Miller. Joel, remember, Joel's the incumbent down there in Lynn County, 93%, 54-46. Ben Rogers, the Democrat right now, and Joel Miller, of course, is the current auditor of Lynn County. So good race there, but Ben Rogers on top, the Democrat.
And 2 more current supervisors are also going up against each other to serve a new District 3. And John Harris currently represents District 5. He was facing Brent Olson, who is currently in District 4. And right there, as you can see, 92% reporting Brent Olson with 55% of the vote.
And of course, the 1st District Congressional winner, Abby Finkenauer, is expected to address her fans and supporters shortly in Dubuque. And we're going to go live right there. At least you see on part of the screen there. They're getting ready for her to come out for an acceptance speech, we're told. 29 years old, she'll be the second youngest woman ever elected to the United States Congress. And there's the lead right now over incumbent Republican Congressman Rod Blum with 52% reporting, but enough votes are in to know that she is going to win tonight and win rather handily.
Absolutely, and of course she has a lot of supporters that are gathered tonight to celebrate with her. Of course, everybody very excited for her to be elected in that area and at that gathering tonight in Dubuque. And we will turn to KWW's Jalen Socek in just a bit. She is at that gathering this evening.
I want to talk to Chris Larimer, our University of Northern Iowa professor of political science. He's our KWWL political analyst. And Chris, is there anything shocking about that tonight, or is this, again, we talked about this earlier, is this a referendum against Donald Trump to the President of the United States? What do you think about that in this race?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a shocking outcome. I mean, if you go back to the year 2000, incumbents in the U.S. House win re-election at an average rate of over 90%. So anytime a House incumbent is defeated, it's a big story. And certainly here in Iowa, where you have a true-term incumbent like Congressman Blum, not only lose, but lose by what appears to be a double-digit margin, at least at this point. The polls could certainly still narrow as all the results are brought in. If it ends up being that big that size of a margin of victory for Abby Finkenauer, that's also significant. So yeah, I think this is quite significant in terms of the extent to which the president was a factor in this race. I think that's still one thing we're waiting to see. But I'll tell you that there's a lot of research out there that says presidential approval matters for midterm elections, that it matters in terms of predicting overall representation within Congress. And so given that the president's approval rating was below 50, kind of in the low to mid 40s, that you had Congressman Blum kind of cozying up to President Trump over these last few months, I think it's certainly a possibility that that relationship did matter for some voters in the district.
Yeah, so when it comes down to it, do you think, as a political analyst, do you think it had more to do with people not liking President Trump, or were they more drawn to Abby Finkenauer, the fact that she's young and that she's a woman? Which do you think really was a big factor there?
Well, I tell you, in terms of political science research, there's been this trend toward what we talk about as negative partisanship, that people are more likely to identify with a political party, not out of necessarily agreement with the party platform, but more that they disagree with the other party, or that they dislike the other party, that they are angry with the other party, or that they are extremely frustrated with the other party. So if you translate that to this race, that would suggest that perhaps more people were voting out of frustration or disapproval with President Trump than necessarily in agreement with a particular candidate. It's that we're at that point where people have really sorted into the two political parties and become so entrenched that they really don't distrust anything out of the other side. And those negative emotions can be a very powerful motivator to turn out to vote. I don't think we yet know for this district, but as I said, on the whole, this trend toward negative partisanship would suggest that, again, disapproval with the president was potentially a factor in the race.
And as we talked earlier, the so-called blue wave is occurring tonight in Iowa. Even Steve King is in a very difficult race tonight against J.D. Scholten out in western Iowa, and King expected to win, but expected to have a closer race. He's in trouble tonight, it looks like, even.
Yeah, so far the race is certainly very close, and again we have to wait till all the results are in, till we count all the votes, and we'll see where they sort out. But I think more generally, if some of these races hold up, if some of the Democrats win races that they weren't necessarily expected, I think more generally it speaks to the fact that Iowa is still very much a swing state. Mm-hmm. We talk about that Iowa went for Obama by 9 points in 2008, 5 points in 2012, and then back to the Republican side and Trump in 2016 by 9 points, and a lot of people were speculating, is Iowa now a red state? I think what we're seeing so far is that Iowa still is very much a swing state. There are pockets of red, pockets of blue, but the state as a whole can swing either way.
Now, Chris, we are waiting for Abby Finkenauer to actually make it to the venue to give her speech in just a moment. So while we are waiting for her, I want to turn our attention right now to the governor's race. From what I'm seeing right now, 60% of precincts are reporting Fred Hubbell with a 51% lead. Now, I know generally in the past when it comes to governor races, as long as a state's economy is strong, typically the person who's currently the governor, if they want to, they will be reelected. This right now, the numbers that we are seeing, that might not be the case. Again, do you think that goes back to more of a national feeling regarding President Trump?
Well, I certainly think gubernatorial elections, like most elections, have become very nationalized in the sense that they're caught up in national politics and the national political mood. So that very well may be the case with the gubernatorial race in Iowa. If the outcome tonight holds up as it does right now, where it gets down to 3-4 percentage points, that's historic as well. We haven't had that close of a race. You have to go back to the 1986 race with Terry Branstad, his first race for re-election in the midst of the farm crisis, where you had an outcome that was decided by less than 4 percentage points. So that doesn't happen very often. And you're right, perceptions of the economy certainly matter for a state gubernatorial election. People think about the state economy rather than the national economy when they're voting for governor. And the state's unemployment rate, as you said, is low, but there's also a qualitative element here in the sense that voters feel personally connected to the candidates for governor. Certainly Governor Reynolds has been out and about around the state trying to build up that qualitative element, trying to build up that personal relationship. But it may have been the case this time around where her race got caught up with everything nationally and the mood nationally in terms of a lot of anxiety and a lot of frustration.
Yeah, no one's calling the governor's race yet, Chris. I mean, it's gone down to 4% now. So this was a situation where you have a woman who's trying to be elected for the first time, and that's kind of the missing piece of the puzzle for Kim Reynolds. I know desperately in talking to her, she wanted this really badly, and it is a tight race still tonight, yes.
It is a tight race, and you're right. The whole issue of incumbency is kind of a new thing for this race because, as you said, right, we know that Governor Reynolds ascended to the position of governor in 2017. That's different than being an incumbent governor. And we know incumbent governors in Iowa win at an extraordinarily high rate, higher than many other states that, like Iowa, do not have term limits. And so it may have been the case that some Iowans just didn't look at her as a traditional incumbent, as they have others in the past who have run for re-election and won by larger margins.
And what about the key issues? We talked about this earlier at 5 o'clock, I believe it was, or at 6 o'clock, about tax cuts, tax breaks, Medicaid, three issues that hammered the governor and hurt her in a big way in this race.
Yeah, do you think the Medicaid privatization, do you think that that maybe was the biggest thing that possibly hurt her?
I think it was certainly a motivating factor probably for a number of voters. I don't know that it was necessarily a persuasive element. I think, you know, going back to this notion of negative partisanship, I doubt it was a case where people were necessarily a Democrat, or excuse me, a Republican was maybe persuaded to vote Democrat. It may have been more of a mobilizing factor for a lot of voters who were frustrated with the direction of the state, or frustrated in particular on that issue, and maybe were more mobilized and more likely to vote in this midterm than they have in previous midterms. I don't necessarily think that it was people changing parties, but more that they were perhaps more likely to vote in a midterm because of that particular issue.
All right, we are just now hearing in our ear from our producer that we can call another race. This is 2nd District. Democrat incumbent Dave Loebsack has claimed a victory with 60% of the vote. This is over Dr. Christopher Peters. He took 37%, and Mark Strauss with 2%. Any surprise here?
No, not at all. You know, if this is really a year where Democrats are more enthusiastic about voting, turning out at higher rates than they have in the past, it's not surprising that you'd see a Democratic incumbent win, particularly in the 2nd Congressional District that typically does lean Democratic in terms of party registration, and you have a relatively popular incumbent in Congressman Loebsack.
And he's someone who's obviously very low-key, stays to the issues, supports the military, really causes no controversy at all in his campaign, and he's won handily in pretty much every race he's ever had.
Yeah, that's right. And like I said, and the district shapes up well for him, given the county's given party registration. So it's not a surprising outcome here.
And he does know that, because that's why he moved. So
that's right.
Stay there.
That's right.
Exactly.
That's
so
right.
he can stay in that congressional district for sure. So an interesting race, of course, or an interesting evening has been shaping up here tonight. Let's take a live look right now at the Finkenauer campaign. We're still waiting for State Representative Abby Finkenauer to come out and greet this crowd and her acceptance speech. We're going to have a break here real quickly, and we'll come back live with the Finkenauer speech here in just a few minutes. 29-year-old Abby Finkenauer has won the race for 1st District Congress. She's speaking right now. Let's go there live. Right now, she's going to greet a few people, and boy, she has a lot of people to thank in this campaign. She'll be 30 years old coming up in December. Graduate of Drake University, Hempstead High School. Lives over in Sherrill. Had a chance to meet her parents on the night of the debate.
And obviously, she's up there on stage alone, and just showing that she is a very strong candidate, very excited to win this election. And now we can hear her speak.
Tonight, we as Iowans made very clear exactly who we are. Tonight, we rejected fear and division. Tonight, we proved we step up for our friends, our family, and our neighbors. And tonight, Iowa elected the 29-year-old daughter of to be their first we got to this point, I think about that moment that I knew I had to do this. And it was when I was standing on that floor of that state house when I saw the GOP in our state go after my friends, my family, my neighbors, and the working folks in this state. And I thought to myself, this is not how we treat people in my state or in my country. And I was going to do whatever I could to get it back. We encountered our fair share of folks who said this could not be done. Well, we know how that turned out. So tonight, I want every single child in this state to know that you can do anything. It does not matter where you come from, who you are. If you got folks around you that believe in you, that care about your state, that care about the countries, that share our Iowa values, it can be done. Don't ever lose hope. Because here's the thing. The path won't always be easy, but you sure don't have to go it alone. Find people who share your sense of purpose, who share our Iowa values. And sometimes that starts with one person, or two, or three, or a whole room like this. And who believed in this from the beginning are absolutely in this room tonight. Yeah! To my mom and my dad. I have never been more proud to be a daughter of a union pipe fitter welder. And above all, to the people here tonight and across the state who have stepped up and participated in this election. This campaign was founded, fed, and fueled by the friends, family, and neighbors and folks all across this district who have stepped up and became my family. Made those phone calls and reminded their friends and family to go vote today. You are why we stand here tonight. And I know you all didn't just do that for me. You did that because you still have hope. And that, again, is always what this was about. It's not about what we've been fighting against. It's about what we are fighting for. This campaign has always been about hope. Hope in the idea that if you work hard, you're not just able to make a living, you're able to have a good life. And the idea that your kids or your grandkids can get a good education and do better than you did. And hope in the idea that God forbid you get sick, you don't have to file for bankruptcy. And hope that if you come from a small town in Iowa, from a working class family, you can have a bright future just like I did, just like every single person in this country deserves. Hope is the reason we got this far. Hope is the reason we still have a heck of a lot of work to do. You asked me to be your voice in Washington, D.C., and you have my promise that I will work my tail off every single day to make sure that the Iowans that Washington has clearly forgotten are heard very loud and clear. This is, and always will be, personal to every single one of us in here. I look forward to the months and years ahead representing you and again fighting for you every single day. I cannot thank you all enough. Tonight, let's celebrate. Tomorrow, let's get to work taking back our country and bringing common sense and decency back to government and politics. Thank you all.
All right, here right there, Abby Finkenauer, Congresswoman-elect in the 1st Congressional District. Obviously, one of the races that we have followed extremely closely here in the KWWL viewing area, getting a hug from her father right there.
Her dad, Jerry, I watched him during the speech there. He was crying a couple of times there, very emotional about that, and her mom was there too. So at 29 years old, Abby Finkenauer becomes the 2nd youngest woman ever elected to the United States Congress, and the first time that Iowa has ever sent a woman to the U.S. House of Representatives, a history-making night here in Iowa.
And during her speech, of course, other results have been rolling into our KWWL studio. Let's go ahead and take a look at one of the results is the Walt Rogers-Dave Williams race. And as you can see right there, a very close race, but right now with 100% reporting, Dave Williams with 51% of the vote, 7,928 votes over Walt Rogers' 7,699 votes. Again, a very close race, but right now it does appear that Dave Williams is victorious in that District 60 race.
Yeah, Dave Williams with an upset tonight over Walt Rogers, 229 votes. The difference there, Dave Williams, the Democrat. Democrats are doing very well tonight. The governor's race, though, is really tightening up, and we'll be talking more about that here in just a moment.
You're watching KWWL. This is an election night special edition of KWWL News at 10.
Welcome back here live. We've heard from the elected 1st District Congresswoman, Abby Finkenauer, live from Dubuque. History made there, of course, and there are other key races still unfolding at this hour. Some, I mean, they are razor thin right now.
Yeah, within just a few hundred votes. Right now, we want to go ahead and take a look at the current governor standings. As you see right there, just neck and neck, as they say, 79% reporting officially, and again, just within a few thousand votes at this point. And Jake Porter also getting some votes there with a little over 17,000. Of course, we're following this very closely. We do have 2 reporters standing by in Des Moines right now. One, of course, at the Reynolds campaign party, and the other at the Hubble campaign party.
This is the first time tonight that Kim Reynolds has led in this race. About 2,500 votes there, you see, with almost 80% coming in. So this race has really tightened up here over the last half hour or so. So Kim Reynolds and Fred Hubble in quite a neck-and-neck battle here on this election night.
And we do have some more results that we can show you. This is for the Attorney General race. Let's go ahead and bring that up if we can. And that is incumbent Thomas John Miller with 77% of the vote, a very strong showing there. And that is 80% reporting, but of course that race can be called at this point for Iowa Attorney General. And then we want to turn to our state treasurer race right now, and that can also be called as well.
Yeah, Michael Fitzgerald, an easy winner again tonight. He's the Democrat. Jeremy Davis was his Republican challenger tonight, and the Democrat running for a 10th term, and he's a winner again tonight. Mike Fitzgerald as the state treasurer of the state of Iowa. One of the key races tonight that everybody has been looking at nationally, in addition to the 1st district, is Iowa's 4th congressional district. And look at these numbers here. This is about as tight as you can get from a pretty much unknown challenger named J.D. Schulten, a Democrat, a paralegal from Sioux City who played minor league professional baseball. He is giving Iowa's Congressman Steve King the run of his life tonight. Chris, let me just ask you about that while we're looking at this number on our screen right now. This is a pretty shocking number, though everyone said Steve King was in trouble. He's going to have a closer race than ever before.
Yeah, they were saying that coming in, but we've heard that before with Congressman King, where it's supposed to be a close election, and it turns out to be a little bit outside of what you would consider close. You know, I always think back to 2012 when you had your first election after redistricting for Congressman King. His district changed shape dramatically. He was going up in a presidential year, and he was going against a very popular former First Lady in Christy Vilsack, and he ended up winning quite easily. So coming into tonight, I mean, if you looked at all the factors out there, you looked at, you know, the party registration in his district. Yes, the atmospherics around the election, some of the rhetoric that was around his campaign was quite negative, and there was a concern there. But I think looking at some of the numbers in the history there, I think there was still a slight edge for Congressman King. So the fact that it's this close, and again, all the results are not in yet, but the fact that it's this close is quite surprising.
Yeah, you know, I was just thinking about this earlier tonight. I covered my first midterm election in 1982. Back in those days, Iowa had 6 members of Congress, 6 congressmen: Jim Leach, Tom Taki, Cooper Evans, Neil Smith, Tom Harkin, and Berkeley Bedell. And that was the night in 1982 when Governor Terry Branstad, at age 36, became the youngest governor in the United States. In that election, that was kind of interesting because he's a Republican, and the win over Roxanne Conlon, of course, for Terry Branstad in '82. And then Robert Anderson was elected lieutenant governor. He was a Democrat.
That's right. Well, and think about that. You six members of Congress, or 6 members to the House of Representatives in 1982, and there's talk now that after the 2020 census, Iowa may lose another seat, go down to 3 members of Congress. And so, again, you may see significant change in the House of Representatives. Another one of the results I think that's worth mentioning tonight, in addition to Abby Finkenauer winning, Sidney Axne in the 3rd Congressional District.
Another upset. Yeah.
Another upset has won, and also, remember, there's the group out there, the bipartisan group of women legislators, 50-50 in 2020. One of their goals was to have half of the members of the U.S. House be women by 2020, and it looks like they will now have that with Abby Finkenauer and Sidney Axne winning 2 of the 4 congressional districts.
Now, as you've been studying all of these races in the months leading up to it, and we can also talk about the governor race as well, which, of course, right now is so very close. As you sit there tonight, are you surprised? Are you kind of like, oh, I kind of expected these to be this close? Is there any type of emotion that you have as far as a shock value, a surprise of any type?
Well, the closeness of the race is surprising, certainly with Congressman King. The margin of victory for Abby Finkenauer tonight is surprising. And I think what I still need to kind of to complete the puzzle here, complete the picture, is try to understand what happened in state races, because trying to understand, was this a blue wave all the way across the state, all the way down the ballot, or was this limited to in particular races? The fact that the governor's race is as close as it is, but you see Abby Finkenauer and Sidney Axne winning by considerable margins in their 2 races, or at least in Sidney Axne's case, it's down to less than 5 percentage points now. Trying to understand, was there still party switching? That's something we always look at with Iowa elections. You can go through county by county, and every election cycle, you can usually find cases where it was clear that voters were switching parties as they were moving through the ballot. And so I think that's one of the things to go back and look at. Were there Reynolds Finkenauer voters or Reynolds Axne voters as you went through the ballot?
Very good. Very good points there, Chris. I think Lauren Moss, Abby, is ready for us now. She is covering the Fred Hubble campaign. She's live for us in Des Moines. We'll kind of get a sense from Abby about the atmosphere there as the Hubble campaign has lost this lead here in the last 30 minutes or so.
Can you hear us, Lauren?
That's right. You know, Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
I know it's a little loud in here.
Go for it.
We got the music there, and I told you it was rocking earlier. Still rocking, but we are still waiting. As I said earlier, all eyes glued to the TV. Now, you mentioned Abby Finkenauer. When she was on TV giving her speech, this room went wild. Some people were even crying in the crowd. We still haven't seen Fred Hubble. Rumor is he's supposed to arrive around 11 o'clock, 11:02 right now, so he's supposed to come at any time, speak to the crowd, kind of rally them back up, because we've been waiting for quite some time. Such a close race still, but we are still waiting for those results. So, guys, I'll toss it back to you, but we'll be waiting here, and once those results come in, you'll hear from me again. Live in Des Moines, Lauren Moss, News 7, KWWL.
Lauren, thank you very much. And of course, always very exciting on election night.
Yeah.
A lot of waiting, but you know, it seems to be worth the wait for so many at the end of election night.
Yeah, the register poll on Sunday, it always comes out the Sunday before, Sunday before the election day, 2 points. They said Fred Hubble and Governor Reynolds were within 2 points, and we're seeing that here tonight. I mean, we're almost within 2 votes. It's so close. But Governor Reynolds has recaptured the lead, actually taken the lead for the first time here tonight by about 2,500 votes. And, of course, that will be changing here momentarily as more of the precincts begin to report. But this race is really about as close as everyone thought it would be. 82% now reporting, and there's a margin. In fact, she's actually increased her lead a little bit since the last time that we spoke, about 9,000 votes here. So she's actually piled on a few more votes here in the last 5 or 6 minutes.
And Chris, what do you think was the strength here? So if right now she is leading, 82% is reporting, you know, as she focused her campaign, what do you think her key issues that really drove home to maybe a voter who was undecided? Because, you know, so many voters in Iowa are undecided. What do you think maybe attracted them at the last minute?
Well, as I said earlier, I think when you look, at least when I've studied gubernatorial campaigns in Iowa, there's a quantitative element and there's a qualitative element. When we've seen governors get through those tough election cycles, whether it was Governor Branstad in '86 or even Governor Branstad in 1990 or 1994, or at least in earlier elections, Governor Vilsack in 2002, the qualitative element has been significant to the extent that these were individuals who were able to reach out to Iowa voters, make them feel comfortable with their candidacy, and give them another shot at trying to run the state. In other words, they gave them a little bit of leeway at the polls because they felt comfortable with the candidate. They knew them on a personal level. I think you saw that with Governor Reynolds' campaign these last few months, where she was really trying to make it personal. She had the campaign ad with her grandchildren on the trampoline, not really talking about issues, just talking about herself and her personal life. And I think that there may have been an attempt there that was kind of the last factor that she could try to move to persuade any of those last undecided voters.
And late in the campaign, and many people thought they waited too late, the Republicans came back with someone who actually was pretty much in favor of the Medicaid privatization, that she felt it was going to be the best thing in the long run, and that was the issue that really hurt her for much of the campaign. They finally came back late in the campaign with that spot.
Right, and I think that was probably one that was maybe reassuring for some Republican voters. If they were hesitant about Governor Reynolds and weren't necessarily going to go to the Hubble camp, but were maybe hesitant about voting for, that may have been a more reassuring component to that campaign.
Yeah, I thought that was a very key ad for the Republican campaign of Governor Reynolds late in the campaign, to have someone actually come out and say, hey, you know what, I don't think this privatization has hurt everybody.
Right.
Yeah. Right.
And what about debate performance? You know, Fred Hubble took more of a softer approach when he answered questions, and Governor Kim Reynolds came out very strong. Obviously, do you think that sometimes in debates that those factors matter, or do you think they really don't matter in the end?
Well, again, I would go back to they're more of a mobilization factor. You know, we don't really see a lot of evidence that debates persuade people to vote one way or the other. It's more that the idea behind a debate really for each candidate is to energize your campaign and energize your supporters. And so I think that's probably how voters were looking at the debate. Anymore, the way we've talked about partisanship, people are so entrenched in their own beliefs that they're going to filter everything through their own partisan lens, and that includes how they interpret debate performance. So again, I think it was probably a more of a mobilizing effect than any sort of persuasion element there.
Well, let's talk about a couple of other state races real quickly. The state auditor's race usually doesn't get a lot of publicity, but this time around it did. And Rob Sand, the AP says, is going to win this big money race. And he got a lot of help from his wife, who was very effective in his campaign, which appeared
very catchy campaign ad for sure.
So he's the Democrat. He wins over the incumbent Republican Mary Mosman, who was criticized heavily for kind of being asleep at the wheel, as the Register reported on one of its columns.
Let's go and turn to some other races that we do know the results on. Hopefully the county supervisors we have up there. All right, there we go. Blackhawk County Supervisor Dan Trelka, as we mentioned, will take a seat there. Also Craig White. He will once again fill a position there as a Blackhawk County Supervisor. Those two going on above Yeshi Abebe.
Yeah,
and that is 100% reporting.
That's right. We're electing 2 tonight out of the field of 3. And, of course, the Blackhawk County Supervisors is consisting of 5 seats. So the other ones won't be up for election here for a couple of years. So Dan Trelka, the top vote getter by 17 votes. He will remain as Waterloo Police Chief and take on additional responsibilities as a Blackhawk County Supervisor, along with the Democrat Craig White, who has won his 5th term to the supervisors.
Now let's turn to Lynn County in District 1. Stacey Walker, very strong result right there, 65%, 17,396, and that is 100% reporting. That is over James Hauser, just 35% of the vote. Again, that's in District 1.
Let's go over to the next district, District 2. Democrat Ben Rogers, a winner here over the current auditor for Lynn County, that is Joel Miller. So 54% gained by Ben Rogers tonight in victory over Joel Miller.
And then in District 3, we have Brent Olson, 55%. He will take that seat. John Harris with just 45% of the vote. Again, that is 100% reporting in District 3 for Lynn County Supervisor. And of course, we are following so many races right now that are just so close. You know, it's always exciting. I always say that there's no better night when you work in the news business. And I think it's why we all love it so much. Our adrenaline is going great here. But we are actually going to take a break from the election results because he's been standing by all night, and I think we kind of just feel sorry for him. Let's send things over to meteorologist, Chief Meteorologist Mark Stackelberg.
It's like severe weather of news here. We're covering this weather-wise, but nothing severe around our neck of the woods. All is quiet back here in the Weather Center. It's just cold out there, and we want to talk a little bit about some snow. If you're not happy about the election results for whoever you voted for, well, maybe you're not happy about the snow. Go ahead. You don't have. I thought Ryan was going to complain about the snow for a second. Yeah, you can't vote for the snow or no snow. That's one thing that you cannot vote for. Let's go ahead and take a look outside as we look at our Storm Track 7 live weather network camera in Cedar Falls. We've had a lot of clouds throughout the day. Clouds will continue for a good portion of the night. Our southern and southwestern counties are starting to clear a little bit. Areas to the north and east have got a lot of clouds around, and those clouds will stick around as we're looking at a few snowflakes into portions of Minnesota. Now, as for the temperatures, we are in the 30s right now, lower to middle 30s across the region, and there is a wind that's out of the west running at about 10 to 20 miles per hour. That is putting wind chills down into the lower and middle 20s. So, yeah, it's cold out there, and it remains breezy through the night and into the day tomorrow. Not as windy as it was today, where wind gusts were up around 40 miles per hour. We'll see wind gusts to maybe about 25 tomorrow. Temperatures will be in the, I'll say 40s here tomorrow, 30s and 40s, so some pretty chilly weather on the way. Future track, it looks like this. Yes, future track includes clouds increasing Saturday, or excuse me, Saturday, wishing it was Saturday here. Well, clouds increasing Thursday afternoon, and there's some light snow pushing on through the area here on Thursday night into Friday. Some minor accumulation is a possibility as we head through the night, and possibly some slick spots on the roads as we head into Friday morning. Here's your city-by-city forecast. 30s for highs. There's your light snow. That'll be mainly in the morning hours. Look for some dry weather as we get into the afternoon. And the 7-day outlook shows more like December-type weather. How about this? Highs in the upper 20s and low 30s. And overnight lows in the teens and 20s. Look at the highs on Tuesday. We'll be in the 20s around here. How about this? Ready for the middle of November to feel like December? Temperatures well below normal across a good portion of the country, but not much in the way of any precipitation. Well, looks like we'll stay dry, just cold out there.
All right, Mark, thank you very much. We're getting some big news as you were giving your weather forecast. We are hearing that NBC is projecting that Governor Kim Reynolds is the winner, is being elected to the Iowa governor office. So we do know that she's getting ready to take the stage. Of course, we do have a camera crew there in Des Moines right now. We're just kind of waiting for her to actually take the stage. So we are learning this information as you are learning it right now. As you can see, she's carrying 49% of the vote. This is 84% reporting. Those are the official results that we have right at this moment. And you can see the crowd right there, some cheering. So we don't know what to expect here. Again, that is an NBC projection. But Governor Kim Reynolds is getting ready to take the stage in Des Moines in just moments.
History made in Iowa tonight. Governor Kim Reynolds has been elected Iowa governor, the first woman ever elected governor of Iowa. She has a margin of victory right now of about 12,000, a little more than 12,000 votes as Iowans get ready to hear her, I guess we should say, victory speech here tonight. She's in Des Moines tonight. So once again, Kim Reynolds makes history in Iowa on the political scene, becoming the first woman ever elected governor of our great state of Iowa.
And of course, we can probably guess that what she's doing right now, possibly she is talking to Fred Hubble on the telephone. We're not really sure, but obviously a lot of excitement in that room, as you can see. Some people holding up some signs. Very exciting for sure.
Well, Chris, this is a history-making night. There's no doubt about it. We're going to go to Kim Reynolds live here in just a moment, but this is one that this was as tight as everyone expected it would be tonight.
Yes, it was. And again, when you look back at gubernatorial elections in Iowa, you have to go back much further to find one even somewhat as close as this one seems to turn out to be. I think if you go back to the Loveless Leo Hogue race in 1956, you get somewhat close to what it looks like right now. So this is, as you said, an historic election. She is the first woman elected governor of Iowa. It's a historically close election. And, you know, in the context of everything that's going on tonight, this fits with the discussion we had earlier about trying to understand the extent to which this is a red or blue wave. It appears, at least at the federal level, you know, in Iowa, there appears to be a slight blue wave. And certainly nationally, the predictions are within, or what the outcomes are within what the predictions most people thought in terms of Democrats winning over or winning back the U.S. House. But within the state of Iowa, we now have a Republican governor, and we're still waiting to see the results of all the races from the Iowa House and the Iowa Senate. But that makes it a little bit harder to understand exactly what's going on, because you still have Republicans winning in Iowa. And if you look at some of these other races where the Iowa Ag Secretary, the Iowa Secretary of State, you have the Republican incumbents winning in those races, and yet we still had Democrats elected to Congress in the 1st Congressional District and the 3rd Congressional District.
And this goes back to my question. I mentioned this earlier, so for those of you just now tuning in, as you know, I think we could call it, when you work in the news business, election coverage 101. You do learn that if the economy is strong on election day, the person that is the governor of that state will be reelected if they are running for reelection. So as things start to get analyzed in the weeks, the months to come, do you think at the end of the day that's going to be because currently our economy is strong?
I think that could be part of it, but we're also seeing more and more that the way that people interpret the economy is through their own partisan lens. So partisanship is sort of overtaking everything. The way that people look at every issue, including pocketbook issues like the economy, is being overrun by people's own partisan beliefs. And so, you know, I think Governor Reynolds certainly talked about the unemployment rate a lot on the campaign trail. She talked about the U.S. News and World Report article that came out talking about is Iowa one of the best places to live. So I think the economy matters, but I still think there's an element of partisanship there, and there's a personal relationship that voters seem to want with their governor.
And you know, there is the historic angle. I think people like it when history is made. That could be a small factor, it could be a few votes, and in this race here tonight, it's enough to win.
Yeah, again, it certainly could be, but you know, I think we have to wait and see what were the factors, what was the #1 motivating factor for people turning out. Did they view Governor Reynolds as an incumbent? Was she viewed as an incumbent governor, and that gave her a little bit of leeway at the polls?
And one thing, you know, Terry Branstad turned it over to her. She was kind of that whole privatization thing, though she was lieutenant governor at the time. Everyone knows lieutenant governors don't really have a lot of influence on the policy of the current governor. So Terry Branstad handed that to her, that privatization. She was stuck with it, and you take that away, and she might even score a more clear-cut victory.
Yeah, and like we've talked about, that's one of the things we need to dig into a little bit more, the extent to which issues matter. You know, in political science, we often talk about partisanship comes first, and then everything else is kind of a distant second in terms of thinking about voters as issue voters. But certainly with the Medicaid privatization, collective bargaining reform, mental health reform. Those were big issues going into this campaign, and voters seemed to be really motivated by those issues. They weren't persuasion issues, but they were those motivating issues for a lot of voters to turn out. At least I would expect if you look at the exit polls.
I want to go back to Rod Blum real quickly. He is well known as a very successful businessman. He created two very successful companies, Digital Canal and Eagle Point Software. He also created one internet company which could have cost him the election tonight.
Yes, potentially. There was the potential ethics issue there. And again, we need to understand whether, you know, the extent to which voters were turning out because they were disgusted with President Trump, they were upset with what was going on with Congressman Blum, or they were just motivated to have a change in direction. We saw that in the Des Moines Register poll. There were a lot of people in the state who were looking for a change in direction. That may have contributed to the Axne win in the 3rd District, Congressman Blum's win in the 1st Congressional District, and even in the gubernatorial race. Governor Reynolds scored quite well on some of those personal traits. People did feel comfortable with her, but there were also a lot of voters who wanted a change in direction, and that those two factors competing against one another may be the reason that we have such a close outcome in this race.
Yeah, I mean, whenever you bring up the issue, just ethics investigation, just the sheer mention of that can be so negative to a candidate, and I think everyone would agree that definitely hurt Rod Blum.
Yeah, I mean, because it creates a narrative there, right? That this is someone who he or she thinks they are above the law, and that is hard to get around. That's a very negative accusation, obviously, and yeah, there is the potential that hurt Congressman Blum tonight.
All right, Chris, thank you very much. We're able to call another race. NBC is calling Steve King as the winner of the 4th Congressional District race. There are the results right there, 78% reporting. Another close race as well. Steve King, the Republican, facing J.D. Scholten. He got 48% of the vote, or currently has, I should say. Charles Aldridge also coming in with 2% of the vote. Again, this is Iowa House District 4.
Look at that margin there. That's 2,114 votes. By far the closest race that Congressman Steve King has ever experienced. This is his 9th term. And Chris, you remember, because he was the 5th District Congressman when Iowa had 5 congressional districts. This is the closest race he's had, and he's been elected now 9 times.
Chris, let me ask you, as far as the things that happened with Steve King in the past few days, few weeks, maybe do you think that helped him in the end, or do you think that those voters were already decided?
That's a good question. I think, you know, certainly there are some of those voters who have probably decided, you know, looking at the exit poll data that we had from the Associated Press earlier, it was pretty evenly split between the voters who said that they knew who they were going to vote for all along versus those voters who said, I was waiting to watch what happened during the campaign. So, you know, and we've seen that early voting numbers are up. Iowa surpassed its early voting numbers from 2014 and 2018, and we did that with 11 fewer days of early voting. So it may have been the case that there were a significant chunk of voters who did cast a vote early on. But again, I would go back to, if there was an effect, it was a mobilizing effect. It turned people out to either be more in favor of Congressman King or turn them out because they hadn't voted in the previous midterm but were upset by what they saw in terms of the rhetoric from Congressman King.
All right, Dr. Chris Larimer, we certainly appreciate you being here tonight. Thank you very much. We're also hearing from our producer in our ear while you were speaking that we can now officially give the results of all of the Iowa congressional districts. So let's go ahead and pull up the full screens if we have that opportunity. Of course, we will start with Representative Steve King. Again, he is victorious in the Iowa District 4, 49% of the vote. Again, a very close race, that against J.D. Scholten.
Let's move on to Iowa. The 1st Congressional District, Abby Finkenauer, Democratic State Representative from Dubuque, has scored an upset victory tonight, 51 to 46% over incumbent Republican Rod Blum. She becomes the 2nd youngest woman ever elected to the United States Congress, and she will become the 1st woman ever elected to Congress from the state of Iowa, or at least the Iowa House, or the U.S. House of Representatives.
And handily winning in District 2, Dave Loebsack with 55% of the vote. This over Dr. Christopher Peters and Mark Strauss. Again, 55% of the vote, over 162,000 votes there in Iowa District 2. And of course, he has been in that office for quite some time.
And another big upset here tonight in central Iowa. The Democratic candidate, Cindy Axne, has upset Republican, 2-term incumbent Republican David Young, 50 to 47%. When that vote is just about done over there, but Cindy Axne is the clear winner tonight over the Republicans. So a big night on the congressional scene for Democrats in our state of Iowa.
All right, and we are just now hearing from our producer in our ear. If you could tell me one more time, Zach, who do we have live? All right, we're heading now to Cindy Axney for her victory speech.
And we respect the dignity of every single person in this district. So thank you so much for everything you've done. Couldn't have done this without you. Thank you so much. This is a great night.
There's your Congresswoman-elect from Iowa's 3rd Congressional District, Cindy Axney, a Democrat, victorious tonight over an incumbent Republican, David Young, in a central Iowa district there, district number 3 in our state. So huge night again tonight for Democrats on the congressional scene here in our state. We're going to be waiting here momentarily because Governor Kim Reynolds is about to take the stage for an acceptance speech, a victory speech here tonight, as she has turned back the challenge of Democrats. Fred Hubbell, the well-known businessman. In fact, the Hubbell name is probably one of the most recognizable names in all of Des Moines. In fact, his parents actually were among the founders of the city of Des Moines back in the 1800s. So, well known. It's everywhere. Hubbell is everywhere in Des Moines, that's for sure.
Certainly. It's been quite a campaign. I mean, we've all interviewed them. We've gotten to know them. So there's a lot of passion tonight, a lot of passion behind both parties. So it'll be very interesting to see what she has to say. Obviously, she's going to be very excited. But, you know, she's also going to be very grateful for the campaign that Hubbell has given her, the race that he has given against her. Now, we also want to turn our attention at some point. We're going to be able to check in, hopefully, to Fred Hubbell's campaign with our reporter who is live there tonight. And of course, Lauren Moss has spoken with us a couple times tonight. Loud in the room, kind of hard to hear her at times, which is understandable, but hopefully we'll be able to talk to Lauren again.
A couple of minutes we'll go live, hopefully, to Governor Reynolds. But right now, Blaine Alexander takes a look at some of the results nationally. It's been an exciting night across our nation. Let's go to Blaine.
In the first upset of a dramatic election night, Virginia Democrat Jennifer Wexton declaring victory over Republican Congresswoman Barbara Comstock.
Let's celebrate! Thank you!
The first sign of a blue wave putting the House in Democratic control.
Are you ready for a great Democratic victory? I thought so.
But Republicans will retain control of the Senate with a Texas win by Ted Cruz over challenger Beto O'Rourke. Joe Donnelly, the Indiana Democrat, ousted by Republican Mike Braun.
And I want to thank all Hoosiers.
Marsha Blackburn keeping Tennessee's open Senate seat in Republican hands, topping Democrat Phil Bredesen. In West Virginia, Democrat Joe Manchin keeping his seat, fending off challenger Patrick Morrisey.
We've got to bring people together. Mr. President, I want you to be president of the United States, not the divided states.
President Trump, not on the ballot, but exit polls show he was a major factor for at least 2/3 of voters of both parties. Across the country, 36 governor seats up for grabs. In Florida, Democrat Andrew Gillum and Republican Ron DeSantis locked in a tight race. And in Georgia, Democrat Stacey Abrams working to defeat Republican Brian Kemp to become the nation's first African-American female governor. Blaine Alexander, NBC News, Washington.
Now that race in Georgia, very, very close race there. It looks like it's going to go Republican, though, in the end. But some big upsets around the country and even right here in Iowa. Some pretty good surprises.
Yeah, let's go ahead and turn to some more results. Now, this is actually the race for Abby Finkenauer's old district in Dubuque County. We have profiled this race during the build-up to this election night. Now, the Democrat in the race is Lindsey James. The Republican is Pauline Chilton. And right now, hopefully, we can get up that tally. Again, our producers are working very hard down in the booth to get all of these results in. As you can imagine, everything happens at a moment's notice, so we're just trying to get those results for you. And Ron and I are also just looking at our phones.
I'm just looking through my notes here, yeah, trying to figure out where I am, as a matter of fact, yeah.
So we'll have those in just a moment. There they are right there. Lindsey James is victorious, 100% reporting, 60% of the vote over Pauline Chilton with 40%. That's District 99, of course, in Dubuque County. And again, we had interviewed Lindsey James, and I know that she said her main focus was going to be health care So again, Lindsey James, the Democrat, with 60% of the vote.
Now here's one race we wanted to bring you up to date on. Remember going back to the special election back in April in the Iowa Senate race 25, Annette Sweeney and Tracy Freese, they meet again tonight, and the Republican in the Bill Dixell district, Annette Sweeney, the Republican, wins tonight. Actually, 58%. Are they calling that race yet? Do we know? Well, let's not call that yet. Let's wait on that. Still in progress. Tracy Freese, Democrat from over in the Dayton Hartford area there, 40%. Annette Sweeney with a big lead. Let's point that out right now. She is a Republican, but let's not get too ahead on that one right now with only 58% in. So that's the rematch. Annette Sweeney and Tracy Freese in Iowa Senate District 25, once occupied by Bill Dix before his unfortunate departure.
And some other races that we are following. Of course, this one we've talked about already this evening. Quite a victory there for Zach Walz, 79%. Of course, this is a seat that was held by Dvorsky. Carl Cranback in with 21% of the vote. That is 100% reporting. So that is a final result there. We can put a check mark right by it when we get a chance. District 37 for the Iowa Senate.
Yeah, heavily Democratic district. Zach Walz, of course, very well known social justice seeker and advocate in Iowa, and he wins easily as expected. 79 to 21%. That is the final. Iowa Auditor, we were talking about this here. Mary Mosman upset, a Republican, by Democrat Rob Sand.
And we do believe, actually, that he is currently giving a speech. Maybe we have a live feed of that in just a moment. There he is right there. We'll
except one. I'm the luckiest.
There's his wife, Christine. She was very effective in his campaign commercial.
Thank you to so many of my supporters out there. Thank you all so much for your support. Thank you for your votes. Thank you for your work. Thank you for your emotional support. Everything that you have done for me throughout this campaign has meant a great deal. Thank you.
Rob Sand with an acceptance speech, a victory speech here tonight. He was the guy who's actually involved in that big investigation which uncovered Iowa's largest lottery.
And again, defeating incumbent Mary Mosman. Again, 51% of the vote he has carried over her 46%, and then Fred Perriman took 3% of that vote. Now again, we are still waiting for Governor Kim Reynolds to take the stage. We're standing by for that. Of course, that will be worth the wait to see that speech in just a moment. But once again, if you happen to just be tuning in, Abby Finkenauer is Congresswoman-elect in the 1st Congressional District over incumbent Rod Blum. And it looks like we have a little bit of a camera move there.
Down a little bit
that person's tired, which is understandable. It's been a long night.
Slightly. There you go. Thank you. Thank you very much. This is Rob Sand, the auditor-elect for the state of Iowa. He is a Democrat, scoring a victory tonight over incumbent Republican Mary Mosman.
State auditors have not been, and we have been at a point now where the other division of the office, the investigative division, investigations, that's my work, that's what I do, has been neglected and underappreciated, and it is time to change that because Iowans need more information about what is going on with their taxpayer dollars, and they need it more quickly.
So clearly he's going to go in with a pretty progressive view of investigations in Iowa.
But I haven't just talked about that. We've talked about a couple of other things. It's not just a race where we are trying to wake up the watchdog. It's not just a race about making sure that this office looks at both parts of what its obligations are equally. We are also trying to make a positive impact on the state. And another way we can do that in this office, not just by poking counties and cities where they're making their changes, but by partnering with them and doing something positive for them. And that's what it comes down to with efficiency recommendations, with being able to tell them things that they can do to save your money as taxpayers at the county level and at the city level with every single audit that this office does. And we're going to start doing that when I am state auditor next year.
Once again, Rob Sand being elected state auditor. And if we can turn on Dr. Chris Larimer's microphone right now, and I kind of wanted to ask you about the power of a great political ad, because his ad where his wife talks about how he likes to save money on everything and they turn off the lights in the home, do you think that that was in any way instrumental in this race?
Well, I think it raised the profile of the race. I mean, you look at these offices, whether it's, you know, Secretary of State, Secretary of Agriculture, the State Auditor, State Treasurer. I mean, those are typically what you think of as bureaucratic offices. I don't know that the average voter knows a lot about what each one of those offices does. And so if there was ever going to be a blue wave, you'd expect those particular offices to be caught up in that wave. What's interesting to think about with tonight is you have Republicans winning in the Secretary of Agriculture race. You have a Republican winning in Paul Pate, the Secretary of State office. But then you also have a Democrat like Rob Sand winning the State Auditor's office. So clearly Iowans were going through the ballot and cognitively making a very deliberate choice to say, I'm going to vote for a Democrat for this office, I'm going to vote for a Republican for this office. And I'd be interested to know to the extent to which voters really know a lot about each one of those individual offices, because they're hard to know a lot about. You really have to dig deep to find information about exactly what those offices do. And so a campaign ad like that can actually raise the profile of that race. And so if voters know nothing else, they at least know, maybe have this image of Rob Sand as this family man.
Right, absolutely.
Now, there were a lot of interesting ads. I had a couple of my favorites were pretty funny. I thought the one that showed Mike Nagg, they were trying to portray him as a corporate lobbyist rather than someone, even though he's the Ag Secretary in Iowa and trying to be elected here for the first time since Bill Northey went to Washington, but they had him going trying to climb up a combine and not knowing how to get in the combine. That was a pretty effective ad, I thought, though. It looks like he's going to win tonight, though. And my other favorite was the Hubble hotline, where they had answering questions, and it was pretty funny. A couple of them were pretty funny. Yeah.
So I think it does. Is it going to show, as you do analyze these races again in the weeks and months to come, that humor really will win out at some point?
Well, humor, or I think, you know, unfortunately, I think very negative ads also win out. I mean, when you think about what people remember, they remember, you tend to be more likely to remember something negative rather than something positive. And so I think it's probably still negative ads, but I think a humorous ad does still work. And, you know, you go back through some of these races that have been surprises. I think still the 2014 election cycle sticks out with some of the ads from Senator Joni Ernst. So these ads do raise the profile of the races, and particularly in races that I would call kind of low information races, where voters don't have a lot of information about the candidates or what the offices exactly do.
Good job, Chris. Thank you very much. Boy, a lot of great races here tonight, including the Secretary of State race, incumbent Republican Paul Pate. And I haven't seen the final on that one yet, but he was trying to keep his office, of course, with the voter ID controversy up against his challenger, Deidre DeGier. It looks like Paul Pate, former mayor of Cedar Rapids, is going to win re-election, 91% in, and he has a pretty good-sized lead over the Democratic challenger here tonight.
And we also just mentioned the Mike Nagg campaign. Let's go ahead and look at the results there. 50% of the vote, Mike Nagg. Tim Gannon, the Democrat, getting 47% of the vote. This is 91% reporting. Now, it has not officially been called yet, but we are waiting on that. But at this point, it does look like Mike Nagg will remain Iowa Secretary of Agriculture.
All right, let's talk about a couple of other races. Okay, still waiting on Governor Reynolds. Okay, I'm hearing in my ear right now that Governor Reynolds probably talking to some people on the telephone, congratulating people for their support. We'll find out here shortly, because she will be speaking with a victory speech here momentarily from Des Moines. Chris, I wanted to talk just a little bit about Governor Reynolds, because in speaking with her several times over the last year, even before she was governor and after she was governor, that piece of the pie of being the first woman governor certainly was significant and historic, but that missing piece of her puzzle of actually being elected, that has been solved here tonight. It
has, and again, that's probably that's the most significant part of this election, that she is the first elected woman governor of the state of Iowa, and now with that, she can really set her own agenda, because now she can really create separation from Governor Branstad. I think that was part of the campaign process throughout the last year, since the summer of 2017. But now she can set her agenda as the elected governor of Iowa. It gives her a bit more of a mandate, as we like to talk about, going into the 2019 session, going into the 2020 session. She really has 2 years to figure out what she wants to do. We often talk about the window that elected officials have to try to push through the policies that they want to try to push through. And right now, she probably feels like 2019, 2020, depending on what happens with the rest of the state legislature, is her time to enact her signature piece of legislation.
Plus, it gives her 4 years rather than one year to get ready, because the tax cut certainly looked like an election year ploy, you know, because tax cuts sound so great. But now she has 4 years to work with to really, as you mentioned, set her own agenda.
Yeah, and not only does she have 4 years, now she's an incumbent. And does that mean she continues the trend of incumbents in Iowa, incumbent governors in Iowa, continuing to win re-election as long as they run? We have had very few exceptions, right? Going back to 1962, only 2 incumbent governors have lost their re-election bids in Norman Irby and Chet Culver. And so will she continue that trend of actually winning re-election as an incumbent now going forward?
All right, Dr. Chris Larimer, thank you very much. Now, we are hearing now that we will have David Young. He is conceding right now to Cindy Axne. He is live right now in Des Moines. Let's go ahead and turn to him as he takes the stage.
I've met so many incredible people. I've been to so many cafes and diners, I can't tell you. We're going to lose a few after this. So many incredible people who just inspire me and cause me to work hard and harder for them each and every day. To the citizens of the 3rd District, you've made me a better person. Thank you for that. To my mom and my dad and my family, you can. Thank you for falling in love and having this guy, I guess. But thank you for sticking by my side. You're great role models, great parents. Got a great campaign team and a great official team. I want to thank Dylan and Jake and the hard work and all the volunteers and all of you. So thank you so much. So thank you again for your support, your hard work, your faith in me, your faith in self-government, your faith in how this all began, this great experiment called the American Republic, fleeing the crown of England for religious freedom so that we may worship a God in the way we see fit, who we need to bless us. And I ask God for favor for this great country. Continue to be involved. Have passion. Be civil. Have passion. Be civil. Because we have to pass this great experiment on to the next generation. And we can, we must, we will. God bless you all. God bless this great district, this great state, this great country. I love you. Good night.
All right, that's David Young, concession speech. Now, we kind of understand why Kim Reynolds hasn't spoken yet. She's kind of waiting on Fred Hubbell to deliver his concession speech. Then we expect that Governor Reynolds will make her a victory speech after Fred Hubbell is done. Right now, I believe Deidre DeGier is also speaking right now. She had a pretty good race tonight for auditor, but came up short. She was the Democratic candidate, and I think we're going to go live to her right now. Is that right? Maybe not.
Maybe not. All right, again, Deidre DeGier, hopefully we'll have her speaking in just a moment. All right, here she is.
We know we're greater together, right? We know what success looks like when we join ranks together, right? So let's not lose sight of each other. Let's hold on to each other. Let's hold on to our values. And let's never, ever forget the value of the vote.
That is Deidre DeGier, said to be very much a rising star in Iowa's Democratic Party.
And it looks like she left quite quickly, maybe greeting some of her supporters. Yeah. Now, of course, we are now waiting for Governor elect, I guess we can officially now say, Kim Reynolds to take the stage. And also, we are hoping to hear from Fred Hubbell. We're not sure exactly when or if that is going to happen this evening, but of course we do have a crew there just waiting for him to make an arrival to the stage. We are following this very closely. Now, that race has officially, we can now say, has officially been called for Governor Kim Reynolds. She has taken 50% of the vote over Hubbell's 48 right now, with 91% of precincts reporting. She has taken 632,000 of the vote. Fred Hubbell, 604,000. Again, that's 91% of precincts reporting, but we can officially say that she has been elected to governor of Iowa.
Yeah, real historic night. In fact, what a historic night for Iowa as Governor Kim Reynolds becomes the first woman ever elected governor of our state. She's already the 43rd governor of Iowa, and now, as we mentioned earlier, she can set her agenda over the next 4 years as governor of our state. 50 to 48% win tonight over Fred Hubbell. Waiting for him to deliver I guess we could call it a concession speech.
And we also want to mention Jake Porter with 2% of the vote, over 20,000 votes. Of course, a lot of people were very concerned about making sure that he was a part of things, that he received fair coverage as well. So he did take over 20,000 votes tonight.
He was a factor.
So definitely a factor in that race, depending on how you look at it. And again, Jake Porter 2%, Fred Hubbell 48%, Kim Reynolds 50% of the vote. We are waiting for both Hubbell and Reynolds to take the stage.
Chris Larimer, let's talk about that a little bit. Jake Porter is a factor tonight. He only gets 2%, but that's enough to take this race one way or the other, isn't it? Does that embolden a party like the Libertarian Party or other independents?
Well, I think it certainly emboldens the party in the sense that they got past that critical 2% number, because that's what they need to stay on the ballot for the next election cycle. They need to get 2% in a statewide election, and they did that tonight. So beyond that, it's hard to speculate, the extent to which those 20,000 votes would have gone one way or the other, or if they would have kind of roughly evened out between the two candidates. But it's important that they got to that 2% number. I think, one of the other things, listening to that concession speech from Congressman Young, is coming into tonight, our congressional delegation in the House was 3 Republicans, 1 Democrat. Now it's 3 Democrats, 1 Republican. It's completely reversed based on the results from tonight's, and with Congressman Steve King as the lone Republican.
I was going to say, it's not likely that Steve King, whom I've had on my show several times, he's always a very interesting interview, because you really never know what he is going to say or what he's going to tweet out there, but it's not likely that he's going to get a lot of cooperation from his Democratic counterparts.
Yeah, not only his Democratic counterparts in Iowa, but his Democratic counterparts in Washington, D.C., now that he's in the minority. Yeah.
And they made that clear earlier this week, and the Republicans were criticizing him again for some of his, the actions and some of the statements that he does make.
Yeah, and what we've seen over these last couple of election cycles is just how bitter the partisanship has become, and you wonder what that does to the level or the attempts at cooperation, attempts at bipartisanship in Washington, D.C. I think these last few election cycles have become more and more negative. So I think that makes it harder to reach across the aisle when you have these very vicious campaigns within states.
Now, Chris, while we're waiting for them to take to the stage, I wanted to ask you about careers. Tim Gannon, in a couple of his ads, mentioned that Mike Naig is not even a farmer, and yet he is Secretary of Agriculture. And then with Rob Sand, Mary Mosman in a couple of her ads, she mentioned that he's actually not even a CPA, and yet he has been elected state auditor. Why do you think that those things did not make a difference?
Well, I think, when you're running for office, one of the variables that we often plug in is, do you have elected office experience? That helps in terms of how you run a campaign. That helps in terms of how you get your name out there. Beyond that, I think, voters are not necessarily concerned with some of those details. I think they're more interested in a narrative that's easy to understand, a narrative, and more importantly, a narrative they can relate to. And so, not necessarily having the right job experience after not having elected office experience is probably not as important as having an easy to understand, easy to relate to narrative. And then along with that, party affiliation. As I've said many times tonight, that is increasingly the #1 factor in terms of understanding vote choice among regular voters. And so, your job occupation beyond elected office is probably less relevant than maybe it has been in the past.
Very interesting. All right, Dr. Chris Larimer, our political analyst, thank you again. He's been here all evening. So much insight. We certainly appreciate you being here for that. Now, we do understand that Fred Hubbell will be taken to the stage very soon. That is the word that we are receiving right now. Of course, we have a crew standing by, just waiting, basically, at this point. We are just waiting for him to take the stage, and I assume that his campaign is, of course, talked to the Reynolds campaign, and that is why we have not seen her yet.
That's right.
He will go first, and then she will come out to end this evening.
And, of course, his running mate was Rita Hart, state senator from Floyd County area, from Charles City. So you didn't hear a lot from her during this campaign. Adam Gregg, you know, has been with Governor Reynolds pretty much every stop that I've seen her at in this campaign, and he's always with her, as Governor Reynolds was with Governor Branstad when she was lieutenant governor. She had a very, very visible role when Terry Branstad was the governor of our state, and Adam Gregg is taking that same kind of role, kind of being with Governor Reynolds at every stop that she makes.
And since you did mention that, maybe if we could turn Chris's mic back on, do you think that had a factor, that we did not see much of Hart during this campaign, but yet Gregg was out and about? In fact, we interviewed him earlier in the day. So do you think that maybe had a factor?
Well, I don't. Again, I don't know if it had a factor on, you know, persuading anyone. I think I agree. It was interesting that we didn't see Senator Rita Hart out there as much as we did Lieutenant Governor Gregg. I'm not sure the reasons for that. They may have been just used differently. Senator Hart may have been out meeting with voters on maybe a smaller scale, a smaller stage, doing the more kind of the living room, smaller meetings. But it was interesting because I think initially, you know, the attempt there with Senator Hart and Fred Hubbell was to truly try to mobilize a broader electorate by combining those two on the same ticket, and we just didn't hear a lot from Senator Hart. We didn't see her a lot in campaign ads, as you said, the way we saw Lieutenant Governor Gregg.
I haven't had a chance to really break down the Iowa House and Iowa Senate, but we know going in tonight, Republicans controlled everything. Terrace Hill, the governor's mansion, of course, and the governorship, the Senate, and the House. In fact, in the Senate, Republicans are up 29-20. Right. They were up 59-41 in the House. Have you had a chance to look that over yet? Are there any change there at all, Chris, in the Iowa legislature?
I haven't been able to go through all the races,
Yeah.
but you're right on the state Senate side, and really the Republicans were starting with a 30-20 advantage because that one no-party district was Senator Johnson's district in northwest Iowa, but that was an extremely Republican district. And so, you know, even Senator Hart's district, the party registration there, it was very close, where you had very close equal numbers of Democrats and Republicans in terms of party registration within that district, so that was going to be competitive. But, you know, this was going to be a tough election for Democrats to retake the Iowa Senate. There were 8 or 9 really close races, and they needed to hold on to a few of those, but also pick up 3 races where they're at a disadvantage in terms of party registration. And, you know, I haven't seen any evidence of that yet. I haven't gone through all the races, but this was going to be a tough Senate to try to retake control of the chamber. Most of the forecasters who look at state legislative chambers have put the Iowa Senate as lean Republican or likely Republican.
Yeah, you have to take several years to make that turnaround. You know, but we saw that when, you know, we were talking earlier of the big turnaround just a couple of years ago with Michael Gronstal being upset, and that was a shocker to everybody and a wake-up call to both parties. I think that nobody is safe anymore.
That's right, right. Yeah. But you're absolutely right. The Iowa Senate, the big changes we just don't see anymore. It's usually a few seats at the margin. We don't see those 7, 8, 9 seat swings.
Okay, thanks, Chris.
Yep.
And now we want to turn to KWWL reporter Lauren Moss. She is now joining us live. Of course, she has been following the Fred Hubbell campaign all day long today. And Lauren, obviously, probably a lot of disappointment in the room tonight.
Abby and Ron, that's for sure. If you could see behind me, compared to my earlier shots, the room has definitely cleared out quite a bit. There were hundreds and hundreds of people packed in here earlier, screaming and cheering, full of excitement. So definitely quite the change from the last time I spoke with you. We are expecting Fred Hubbell to take the stage at any moment. Again, I told you he was expected to come about 11 o'clock, but that did not happen. But another official just came through, so this could happen at any moment, and if he does, we of course will let him take the stage. But as you mentioned, a lot of disappointment in the room, nothing like my earlier live shots. So as soon as he comes back on the stage, you guys will come back to me. We'll send it back to you guys for now.
Okay, Lauren, thank you very much. Yeah, you used the word rockin' last time. Not so rockin' right now. We'd like to go to one victorious person here tonight, Ag Secretary Mike Nagg. He's on the other side of Des Moines. We're going to take that live really quick here. We'll go look at the results. First of all, Mike Nagg, of course, took over as Iowa Ag Secretary with the ascension of Bill Northey to the Ag Department out in Washington, D.C. So he wins tonight in what was a really pretty close race, Abby.
It certainly was. Tim Gannon, definitely a strong showing there. 47% of the vote he took. Again, this is 93% reporting, but pretty much obviously we can call this race. Mike Naig taking 50%, the incumbent, and we do understand that right now we actually can take a live feed. This is his victory speech.
Of our great state, I am so thankful that to have such a great team behind me, including my parents, Terry and Sandra, my mother and father-in-law. I got a couple of sisters out here in the audience, and my brother too. This team was all in all year. Thank you. And I should also mention that my mother-in-law is a good Republican who was just elected Mills County Treasurer tonight. Thank you, Jill, for being here to celebrate with us. So, secondly, I'd like to thank Governor Reynolds for her trust in me to lead the department this past year. Our governor is a tremendous leader and a great advocate for Iowans. You know, I want to thank the thousands of old friends and new friends and supporters who put their time and energy into this race and their hard-earned financial resources into our campaign. We worked hard, and I'd like to think we ran for the right reasons. I just spoke to my opponent just a couple of minutes ago, and I'd like to thank Mr. Gannon for a hard-fought race. You know, I know that Tim understands the challenges that we face here in Iowa with our industry in rural Iowa. And, you know, Tim and I don't agree on every issue, but I know that he cares deeply about Iowa. So I want to thank Tim for a hard-fought race. And I want you to know that as your Secretary of Agriculture, I will continue to work on the three key issues that I talked about as I put forward my vision for agriculture, and that's to work to expand our markets for our products, to stay laser focused on improving our soil health and our water quality, and to make sure that we have the workforce to fill the jobs of today and of tomorrow. Now, we're going to enjoy this victory this evening, but I tell you what, I'm energized, I'm ready to go, and tomorrow morning we're going to roll up our sleeves and we're going to go right back to work at the Department of Ag. You know, I know that there'll be challenges ahead. I know that things won't always be easy, but I tell you what, I've always believed it. With the right vision, with the right leadership, and with hard work, our brightest days are ahead. Thank you very much again for your support. It's a tremendous honor to serve as Iowa Secretary of Agriculture. Thank you again.
All right, Mike Naig once again winning the race for Secretary of Agriculture, giving his mom a hug. I believe that's his mother-in-law, who also was elected to an office this evening. And just obviously a very joyous occasion for Mike Naig and his family. And that is the very same stage that Governor Kim Reynolds will be hopefully walking onto within just minutes. That is basically what we are waiting for at this point. Of course, we also are going to hear from Fred Hubbell, hopefully.
Now let's go right now back across town to the Fred Hubbell campaign. I believe Lieutenant Governor candidate Rita Hart is there. Fred Hubbell is making his way to the stage, I understand. We'll take that live here to see what's going on there. There he is.
There he is.
Let's hear from Fred Hubbell.
Thank you, every one of you. You've worked so hard for so long. And so have all these people up here. But we need to remember that our greatest asset is all the people in our state. The people who live here, the families who work here, who retire here, get an education and a job, and even those who start businesses here in our state. You know, I remember in Iowa where we banded together, where the word community meant making sure that everybody had a fair shot. Well, we need to get back to that, and even if we aren't happy with tonight's results, the fight continues. I just got off the phone with Governor Reynolds, and I congratulated her on her re-election. but I also urged her to represent all of Iowa in her first full term. And to listen to all those people who talked about the importance of education and health care and job training and the need to make changes in those areas in our state. You know, when you look around our country, you see other states are paying the price for failing to make the investments in the people. Oklahoma can only afford a 4-day school week. Kansas increased tuition costs more than 20%. And let's hope that Iowa stops going down that same road. While tonight didn't turn out the way we would have liked, the energy and the support that we have received along the way is proof that a lot of Iowans know we need change. And it's my sincere hope that in her first full term, Governor Reynolds will listen to those voices loud and clear. We may feel discouraged, we may feel let down, but with so many lives impacted by these policies, we don't have the luxury
All right, we actually are going to break away from this. We do apologize for those that were wishing to watch this, but we need to switch across town to the Governor Reynolds campaign. Right now, Lieutenant Governor Adam Gregg is on stage, so let's go ahead and take that feed when we get a chance. Of course, she will follow right after.
It's an honor to serve you in the role of Lieutenant Governor, and it's an honor to serve side by side with our first elected female governor in state history. Before we bring out our great governor, I have a few points I'd like to quickly make. First of all, a few thank yous are in order. Thank you to the campaign team and the many volunteers all across the state who made this victory happen. There are also some very special people here tonight, very important people in my life that I'd like to recognize. My parents are here. Larry and Carol, where are you? Right over there. Help me say thank you to them. And Carrie's parents and Carrie's grandparents. And of course, the most special of all, these three right here. My wife, Carrie, my son, Jackson, and my daughter, Lauren. They make so many sacrifices to allow me to serve in this role. Will you help me say thank you to them? Thank you, guys. Allow me to be among the first to publicly congratulate our great Governor Kim Reynolds. Tonight, the voters of Iowa rewarded strong leadership. They rewarded a positive, optimistic view of where we are and where we're going. They rewarded someone who knows our state, who knows our people and their values, and someone who knows that our state is more than an imaginary golden circle around Des Moines. There are actually 4 corners to our state, and she cares about all of them. And with the help of all of you tonight, Governor Kim Reynolds proved that there is no more glass ceiling under that golden dome. You ready to hear from her? Yeah. Join me in welcoming our great governor, Kim Reynolds.
Might have gone a little bit early.
And she's making her way through the crowd. Obviously, this might take a while.
It's going to take a while, yeah.
A lot of supporters that, of course, she's going to want to thank and say hello to as she makes her way to the stage. Once again, Governor Kim Reynolds winning tonight. 94% of the vote is now in, but it is official. She took 50% of the vote over Fred Hubbell's 48%. Jake Porter took 2%. Kim Reynolds took 646,766 votes. That is to Fred Hubbell's 612,012 votes at this point.
Iowa history made tonight. Governor Kim Reynolds, elected governor, the first woman ever to be elected governor of Iowa. She just turned 59 back in August. Her husband Kevin, been married over 30 years. They have 3 grown daughters, Jennifer, Nicole, and Jessica. They've been married 36 years. And she wanted this tonight so badly. I can tell you that missing piece of her puzzle has been filled in. There's your governor, 43rd governor of the state of Iowa, Kim Reynolds.
Can we get everybody? This is what happens when you have 10 grandchildren and a big family. It takes a bigger stage. What were we thinking here? Oh, can we have everybody out? Well, I love Iowa. Go Iowa. Thank you. Thank you so much. Oh, thanks for hanging in and staying late. And thank you, Iowa. What an honor. Amazing, amazing honor. And I have so many people I have to thank, so you're going to have to bear with me. First of all, I want to thank my family that's standing behind me. My husband, Kevin, who has been a saint and a trooper through all of this. Yay, the first dude. Our 3 daughters, and of course our son-in-laws, and we've got Avery is representing the 10 grandchildren. So she's this is homework for school. So way to go, Avery. I have my mom and dad here, and I talk a lot about being raised right in a rural community, and I'm so, so blessed and lucky to have mom and dad with us tonight. So thank you. I love you. Those of you that know my dad, the sign guy, you know he actually has a better network than I do. So it's actually really good to have him on board. You know, there's no way you do this job without the support of family, and I just want to tell them from the bottom of my heart how grateful I am for their support and encouragement, and really, even at times when I didn't know if I would go on, they could go on, they'd lift me up and keep me going, and they definitely keep me grounded, so I am very, very, very blessed. So let's give them one more round of applause, okay? I also want to thank an incredible GOP team. Lieutenant Governor Adam Gregg. I talk a lot about team and partners, and I got the best darn lieutenant governor in the country. I am so proud to have him as a partner in this administration. I am looking forward to serving the next 4 years with Adam. Mike Nigg, Secretary of Agriculture. Paul Pate, Mary Mosman, Jeremy Davis. Chairman Kaufman, where are you? Yay! Where is he? Woo! Co-chair Cody Hofert, Rod Blum, Congressman King, Chris Peters, and Congressman Young, and Speaker Upmeyer, and Majority Leader Whitfer. Congratulations on your wins tonight. You know, it was a mixed blessing tonight. We had a lot of people on the ballot, and we had some great victories. But I just want to say a great, big, heartfelt thank you to everybody that put their name on the ballot and worked hard over the past year to have the opportunity to represent Iowans. It's not easy, and they put their heart and soul into it. So God bless all of you that put your name on the ballot and worked hard to run. Let's give them a big round of applause. My official staff, I know a lot of you are here. I want to just say thank you for everything that you've done. All right. Thank you. I have an amazing team. And to my campaign team, You know, it's true. We had a few polls where we were down, but we never gave up, and this team never let up. Yes. And we, thank you. I owe you a big thanks. And most importantly, to our volunteers, and I see so many of you out there, you delivered every day, rain or shine. You knocked doors, you made calls, you put up signs, you brought your friends and your families to the polls. So I want to tell you, this victory is your victory. Thank you for working so hard on behalf of this team. David Barker, whoa! I also want to thank Fred Hubble. He called to wish me best. It was a hard-fought campaign. He wished me well. I told him I looked forward to sitting down with him. He represented a lot of Iowans across this state and a lot of issues that are important to them. And I think that this is an opportunity for us to both sit down and work together and make sure that we can maybe find some common ground to address some of the issues that were important to the people that he was out there fighting for. You know, we both ran for governor wanting the best of our state, and so I wish him and his family well. And to all Iowans, no matter who you might have supported or endorsed in this election, I want you to know that I want to be your governor. I'm running to represent all Iowans in every single corner of this state, and I'm looking forward to the opportunity to do that. I think that's one thing that we can agree on is we want Iowa to be the very best it can be, and we want Iowa's success to reach into every single corner of this state. Thank you. Every day in this campaign, I talked a lot about why I love this state. And truly, this is a state that's given so much to my family and me. I'm a fifth-generation Iowan, and Kevin and I chose to live, work, and raise our girls in a state that we love. And it is a place where a small-town girl from rural Iowa, daughter of a factory worker and a farmer, and a mom who chose to stay home and raise her family, could one day become the first female governor of the state of Iowa. And now I get to say, I'm very proud to say that I will be the first elected female governor of Iowa. Yay. Our state has so much to be proud of. We have a great economy, one of the strongest in the country. Our wages are going up, our taxes are going down, unemployment is at a record low. The budget is balanced, the reserves are full, and we have a $127 million surplus. That's a state that's working. Well, we all know we're the #1 state in the country, so that's a good place to be. We're rated the best place in America for middle-class families. Our farmers are the most productive anywhere in the world, and our cities are thriving. Together, we've accomplished so much, and Iowa is moving in the right direction. But you know what? We are just getting started. When people ask if we can grow more jobs for the future, I say, we're just getting started. When they ask if we're going to keep cutting taxes, we say, I'm just getting started. When they ask if we can make our paychecks even bigger, I say we're just getting started. And when they ask if we can give our kids even better schools and a brighter future, I say we're just getting started. We have a few more of these, so hang in there with me. That's what happens when you're ranking well in a lot of states. And when they ask if we can make our farms and our small towns stronger and more prosperous, I say we're just getting started. And when they ask if we can keep Iowa the #1 state in the country, we all say we're just getting started. And, yay! So together with your help and support, we're not going to keep Iowa at the top. We're going to take it to all new heights. Growing up in Iowa, living here, raising our kids here, this state has taught me the most powerful lesson. If you work hard and dream big, you can accomplish anything. So thank you again for your prayers, your support. It means the world to my family and me. And even though the campaign has just ended, we are just getting started. God bless you. God bless this great state. Let's go out there and get it done. Thank you. God bless you. God bless you.
There you have it. Iowa's 43rd governor making history again tonight, not only as the first woman governor, now the first female governor ever elected governor of the state of Iowa.
Quite a speech there, of course, with her entire family on the stage with her. And we can officially say this concludes our Decision 2018 coverage. We certainly appreciate you joining us all throughout tonight.
I just want to keep on going all night long here tonight.
Hey, in only a few hours, be sure to tune in to Today in Iowa, because they will have full coverage, of course, also of reaction as well from all of the races.
And of course, all the results around the area are available online right now on KWWL.com. Thank you so much for staying with us here late tonight. It's after midnight on a historic night in Iowa history. Thank you for watching.